or a problem. But it's a power loop. I had it, so I wanted to bring it to show.
Is it directional?
They're omnidirectional.
So every which way.
You can rotate them, but you don't have to. Okay. The other stuff on the table here, you can come look. Basically, it's something you may not ever see again because it's going to be deployed on a water tower. This hardware here. It's the rebuilt 6 and 10 meter beacon. We've had a 6 and 10 meter beacon in the area for a while, but it developed a problem, the one that's on the water tower. And I've rebuilt it. This is going to replace it. So here's your opportunity to look and see what the hardware looks like. And it's actually operating now. You can.
What frequency?
The 6 meters is 50.078. 10 meters is 28.231. And it's 6 watts. Okay, I won't say too much more about it. If you want to know about it, just come ask me at the break. And I also brought some paper that relate to operating on 6 meters. Mainly things that I got like 20, 30 years ago. But you can see what a worked all states on 6 meters looks like. I got one of them. There's a worked all continents. And there is a VHF, UHF Century Club certificate. And probably most important is the certificate of membership in the Central Virginia 6 meter single sideband net.
All right.
So you guys can come look at that. Also, when I was operating Strong back when I lived in I kept track of the grid squares I worked. And this you can see got colored in the map. And I got a lot of them. There's actually an award for working all grid squares in the continental U.S. I think there's 575, something like that. It's the Fred Fish Memorial Award. I didn't get to that, but there are quite a few people who have. That's it, Jim.
Question.
Yeah.
Where is it going to be? What's the physical location?
South of Petersburg.
South of Petersburg. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else for show and tell?
Yeah. I got a few pieces of test equipment.
Okay.
This is LCR meter that was reviewed in QSD last month. I got some sample components. And I got an entry level oscilloscope. This is a Chinese one. And this one is viewed fairly favorably on the internet as an entry level one. I was thinking about getting this one. What's the sample rate? I don't know, 1 billion gigahertz a minute. It's 1 gigahertz a second.
That's the one that you show in most pictures, you know, when they're doing some sort of analysis for bandwidth or whatever. That's
supposedly, according to the internet, it's hardware for 100 megahertz, 50 megahertz, so you have to buy the extra capability. So, and you can hack it if you want to.
Right, I was going to say.
But this is just for beginners. It's got 4 channels. It's got a lot of things I don't understand.
All right.
Those are loaners, right? They're loaners, right?
There you go. There you go.
Just for friends.
Bruce?
All right, this is paper, so it's less boring. We sent out these QSL cards for people who contacted us in the 100th anniversary station. We forwarded Z Alpha. We started getting, yes, we happened to forget one guy. Who's not telling me.
Yeah, the first person, the person who sent off the logs to, you know. That's right. Never mind.
Well, you know, you gotta earn it too. Anyway, here are some of the ones we were getting to get back, so I'll leave them up here if you take a look at. Some of them are quite handsome. There's one guy that went out and bought a boat and stuck a radio on it, so.
All right, Ken.
Okay.
New QSC magazine.
What's that?
I've got an article in here about what's called Whisper transmitter. The beaconing, it'll do CW, it'll do a bunch of things. This is the second article. Nice little write-up about it. I've been building one for about a month and a half. Multiple circuit boards, no soldering for surface mount, you know, components, you know, they're all nice. Well, now the resistors nowadays are pretty small and everything, but It got a digital display. Some of these boards are like 15 bucks a piece. And you can pick and choose depending upon what you want to end up with, what you want to do with it. It's got a nice little case when it comes so that you can package it so that it looks halfway decent. Our radio builders group that we've started doing pretty good. We're getting more and more people. We're going to have another meeting on the 25th. I think the 25th is Tuesday in 2 weeks at my place. If you're interested, if you've not been here before, you can contact me, k4zut@arl.net. Send me an email and I'll let you know, how to get there, where we're at, the address and stuff like that. The purpose of this group is to instill a kind of a new interest by many of us who have built things, in the 60s and 70s. And when Heathkit went out of business, a lot of this opportunity was lost. But it's coming back. There are things, this is a good example, easily built. Now, the components are a little smaller. There's a lot of stuff around, that surface mount. I'm starting to learn a little bit about how to work with surface mount. But it's difficult. You need some special things, like new eyes. Or, there's a little microscope. It's USB. It plugs into your computer. Got software, so you can see the screen. A little button on here, you can push it and take a picture of something. And, when you go to your friends and say, hey, is this right? The nice thing about this is you can look for, the masking on these is done very well. So there's very few jumps, between traces on, on the circuit board. But if you're concerned about that, if you're concerned as to whether you have a proper solder joint, you don't want a cold solder joint for a lot of things, this will do it. It's under $20 and it's on Amazon. This next meeting, I think we got 2 Bix 20s. I brought in a Bix 40 rather. Brought in a Bix 40, I think probably 3 months ago or something like that. I've got 2 of them. I've got the original one and a newer updated one that's got a nice digital readout on it, rather than just trying to guess where you are. We got a couple of those that I think are going to come that we can discuss, work on. There's a number of things that can be done to modify them. They were built by a man, an engineer in India, and they were built for a minimalistic kind of thing to be able to, I think my original one was $45, the new ones are like $65. Single sideband, 40 meters, about, 7 watts? 7 watts. You got some things where you can attach a power amplifier, you can get, a little bit more, I guess 20 or something like that, if you really want to be loud.
You used to have to run more voltage to get.
Yeah, you run more voltage to it. It's got a separate thing. When you get it, it's basically all plug-in. There's no soldering involved. Well, maybe to a volume control or something like that, but it's an easy kit, and actually on 40 meters, it performed better, I thought, than my ICOM 718. I mean, it was really, really good, for 45 bucks. Now, the case for it was just a plastic box, so if you want it fancy, you buy a case and, you play with that, and you can spend as much money on a case almost as what you did on the radio. But the other thing that we're going to talk about, we have some interest in Raspberry Pis, and I don't know if he ever downloaded all this stuff.
He did. I talked to him the other day. He said he did, but I don't know how well it's working.
Okay.
He was having a problem with the SDR unit he had wasn't supported by that software.
Okay.
Good classic problem.
So, I mean, and it's a good place to get together to talk about these problems, to see who else has ideas they might be able to resolve it. We're also, there's this here is run by an Arduino, a little single chip. Arduino's become real popular. The Raspberry Pi is a nice machine, but it's a system. This is, your Arduino is sort of a bare bones, it's an embedded application.
Kind of controller.
Controller, they're in your wash machine, they're in your dishwasher, refrigerator, and they're designed to do, very limited things. And one of the limited things here all it has to do is take the output of an oscillator and display it and do some other functions. And in case of the BX40, you need an offset because there's an IF in there, so it does a couple of nice things. Also, Rob is going to bring, it's a North Georgia QRP club put together kind of, not a kit, but good diagrams and stuff, a very small transmitter. And Rob has taken his board, used a CNC machine, and cut out, a pattern in the board. And I think it's called depletion PCB board or something like that. It creates islands where you solder the resistor right to the island, and then the next one over. And so I think he'll bring some of those on. So we've got a number of things going on. There's a lot of interest, and the thing is, we get to talk to people that have a renewed interest, and some that want to, figure out how to get into that. A lot of us, have vision problems. We have, people that show up that have severe vision problems, but they figure out how to see this stuff. I tell you, everything, there's a lot of procedures, a lot of things you need to know. The main thing is don't lick the solder iron when it's plugged in. Other than that, there's all kinds of things to learn from. So you're all welcome. Anyone that wants to come, just let me know in case I need to get more chairs. We can get together and discuss a lot of things, and I get a chance to learn new stuff that way. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have anything they'd like to share? No? Okay, then with that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Richard.
Oh. Last Saturday, we had a very large class of 2 of us that went over to Robert Orndorff's and had a class on antenna modeling. It was an eye-opener class on it, and I found that there are some other programs. The program we get from ARL that comes in the antenna book is limited. You can get another free program that is unlimited and get that. But we learned how to do a lot of things like put a coil into an antenna you're building. How to put not just a coil but a trap in that. We learned how to do model things like a Carolina window, but it's got a tail hanging down from it and everything, and where to model it. And then somebody has been came over to the get-together at McDonald's the other day, and they brought this ridiculous-looking antenna that is made on pieces of PVC pipe like this. It's only about so by so, and they started taking wire, and they started in the center, and they went around and around and around until they got a large, I guess you'd call it circular antenna, but it was not.
Bag loop?
And it was just a continuous thing, and then you feed that thing, and they make 2 of those and make a beam out of it. Well,
40 meters.
Rob showed us how to model those at a circular antenna and things like that. And it was very interesting to learn how to model those kind of antennas. It was a very productive day for us over there. It's a shame we didn't have more people, but I learned a lot, and I think Mike in the club learned a lot too over there. And so it was a very good class.
Very good.
Question, well, how did the modeling turn out? Is it worthwhile for me to spend the rest some more time on winding the other coil for that or not?
Yeah, go on and line it up, I'm gonna find you out the corner.
Does it take one bottle of wine per quart?
All right, anything else?
April 23rd, Powhatan Historic Bike Ride in beautiful downtown Powhatan. Mike Ackett, AC5PT at yahoo.com is still looking for a couple more volunteers. Again, that's Sunday, April 23rd. Still needs a few people at rest stops. And then the real big event that's coming up is, come on, work with me here. Special Olympics, June 9th and 10th. We need about 50 some odd hands to put this thing on. We've got two big weekends right there in June. We've got MS Bike Ride.
That you guys may or may not know them, 50.215 crew. They've been around for, well, they'll tell you all about their organization, what they do, how they got it together, and what's going on. It's been a great experience. So one of the things I really like about 6 meters is it tends to be more localized, and you get to know the people in your local area. So a lot of folks like, 80 meters, and they do all of Virginia. I never do eyeball QSOs with the people in Virginia. I can do that with the 6 meter guys. They've got a monthly breakfast, and everybody gets together. It's a real friendly group, and it's our privilege to have them come here and share a little bit about their history and what they're doing in our community. So with that, where do y'all want to take it?
I'll just take a couple of minutes. Jim, thank you. Jim was really the person that started this all, whether we're going to have a meeting here to talk with you guys today. And I thank you for doing so. I've been around since 1979. Some of you, I know they've got a little bit more on the top than I have, but some of you haven't been. 6 meters has been around for about 13 years now. We've been doing a good job with that. And we're going to talk about the 7 that started this up, who they were, what they did about why we wanted to do this, and how we're doing it. And I've been the net controller now for probably 10 years, so we know that there's 145 on the roll today. There's probably over 200 that have been members of the Central Virginia 6 meter scene. I can't talk right this morning, but anyway, I had a stroke back in December, so things are not great with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll let Floyd and Gene take from there, and I'll go back to listening. Thank you. Can I go first?
Absolutely, yes, sir. It's not often you hear Ralph go back to listening.
At 90, I might fall down. So first, I want to thank the Richmond Club for inviting us over here, and to let you know I am a member. Been so for a good number of years, but I live way off, and to come down at night with my eyesight and hearing is dangerous. Not to me, but to other people. I've been asked to come tonight as the 3 of us to explain and tell you how we entered into a Central Virginia 6 meter single sideband net. There's a little history behind it, and I'll be as quick as I can. I had to do a little research in how we got started and what have you, because that was 11 years ago. And I've come up with a short scenario that I will read to you because I don't want to leave anything out. The Central Virginia 6 meter
net was conceived and initiated on October the 19th, 2004 by 7 Richmond area members of the Army Mars Military Army Radio Service system. And I proudly name tonight the original 7 who formulated our net. Roy Davis, WK4Y, Woody Maiden, WA4GMV, Bill Johan, WA4GMU, George Oberto, N4GO, Frank Isabel, K4MKQ, and Ralph Fetty, W4FEG, and myself, of course, K4ROG. And I've had that call since 1954. Woody Maidens, Bill Johan, and Frank Isabel of the 7 are silent keys. As a bit of history, Woody Maidens, and I won't call their call sign because some of them are long, it just takes up a lot of time. But if you want it, I'll give it to you. As a bit of history, Woody Maidens was net control station for the Army Mars, holding a Mars net at 8 a.m. every morning on Mars FM frequency and also the higher frequencies. Colonel Ted Matheson, how many knew him? Outstanding, a wonderful guy. Ted Matheson, also a silent key, a longtime manager of all Mars stations in Virginia, was in charge of approximately 350 Army Mars members. Colonel Matheson had approved a rule that if you've been active 20 years in the Virginia Mars member, you did not have to fill out an activity report. If you've ever filled out a Mars activity report, that's just part of it. So, what he did was he developed a postcard size report card to send in to Richmond, where the headquarters were. And we all liked that. But several years later, when Colonel Matheson was replaced by a new national director whose demanding rules changed everything, Virginia Army Mars membership dropped from approximately 350 down to approximately 200. And that is when 7 of us were motivated to set up a Central Virginia 6-meter single sideband directed net with a different daily net control station. And we did this as friends to stay active as a group. After a year of operating as a net club, we realized there was too much paperwork and possible FCC involvement with money. So we decided, one member or 2 members of the original group decided that he didn't want to get involved if it dealt with keeping money and reporting money and so on and so forth. So it was, we chose a 6-meter frequency and it was not being used, but one we chose first had been used and we were on top of somebody else, so quickly gave that up. When we tried 50.215, when it worked well for us in our Central Virginia 6-meter single sideband was a go. Our net membership grew beyond our expectations. I will not go into details about how soon we found that our net not last very long with just a rag chew. So every morning between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., briefly, this is what we did to sustain our net. Rag chew was good, but we decided it would not sustain our membership. I developed, number one, we developed a net logo patch. I'm sure you all have seen it. But that's the patch that we developed. And we use it on our cap and it was made into a round thing you could put on your chair. We developed nice membership certificate, and I have a copy of it also. If I can find, here we go. And I am proud to say, this is number one. That's me. It says, issue to Floyd County, call sign K4ROG. This is to certify that the above named operator is one of the original Charter 7 members, co-founders of the Central Virginia 6-meter single sideband net, established October the 19th, 2005. This is the first one of how many?
7.
How many do we have issued altogether?
We had 7 start off.
No,
Oh,
we have
87?
What we have now is close to 200 in total.
Okay. And they're signed by the president then and the secretary. Nowadays, the net manager does all the signing. And you get these after 24 registered check-ins, a number certificate was issued. And you keep your own track. We used to keep it for the amateur, but that got to be a pretty big deal. So now, our net control stations keep a record, and then we can refer to that record to be accurate. Number 3, we schedule a monthly breakfast meeting at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the 4th Saturday of each month, currently at Golden Corral, Gaskins Road. We go around, and every day we have this net. But in December, because of Christmas, we hold a Christmas party. 5, we encourage all licensed amateurs to join the Central Virginia 6-meter single sideband net each morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Our net manager, Ralph, W4FEG, also calls what they call an early bird net from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on the same frequency. And I guess the reason for this is he can reach out, I'm telling you. He's got an antenna 100 feet or so, and he can get to North Carolina and West Virginia and Maryland and all that, where my little HO loop won't go that far.
Well, the thing behind that, we wanted an antenna, not coat hangers.
The Central Virginia 6-meter single sideband net was founded on traditional standards of American radio procedures and ethics. Its purpose is to promote amateur radio on-air fellowship and in particular 6-meter single sideband operation. The founder's intent is to give as many operators as possible the opportunity to develop the skills and confidence required to serve as a net control station. Also, that the circle of like-minded amateurs who enjoy the 6-meter band and single operation will find it challenging and fulfilling and grow into a fellowship dedicated to the art of VHF communications and to perpetuation of the amateur radio hobby. At present, these are our dedicated net control stations who give their time and knowledge to assist and support the net operation each morning, 7 days a week. Sidney Scott, WB4HUL, W4MI, Matt Long, W4FEG, Ralph Petty, our net manager. W4YSP, Gene, former net manager. And W4DGT, Uncle, I call him Uncle Buck Stewart. And KJ4, Sierra X-Ray, Joel, FIGOL. And K4 CDS, Carl Shaw. Those are your operators. When you check in at that time, one of these guys will be on the air. We had so much interest in our net at the annual Frost Fest that we asked Judge Jean Payne, W4YSP, to design and make informational card. They are available tonight, and I hope you will take one. That is, it has all the information about our net. And let's see. Let me diverse. That's basically how we got started. Let me diverse for just a moment. I am a World War II veteran. I have here my father's W8 DCS. Sent me this while I was waiting on discharge. And I cherish it. I won't bother you with what he said on the back. But being a young Navy guy, if you've ever seen a Navy guy cry, that was it. My father was an amateur radio operator when he went into this World War I. He was, and pardon me for saying this, because I think it's something that the younger folks ought to know. He was operating in enemy German lines with a key between the forefinger and the thumb, wiring up the back with a radio pack on his back. He would go in at night in the German area and send Morse code back to the lines, the American lines. One night, he didn't get his gas mask cleared, and the Germans sent gas, mustard gas, and he didn't clear his mask in time. So he breathed some of that gas, and he died at the age of 50. And I think everybody, it's probably not of interest to a lot of people, but he was a radio operator with a telegraph key way back when I was a youngster. Let me finish by saying that when I was a youngster, he had a paper wheel. He taught amateurs the Morse code. He had a paper wheel that had open space for a dot and a slot for dash. So I was there cranking it for him while he was teaching amateurs the Morse code. And that's how I learned the Morse code, way back when. And got interested in amateur radio. That's about all I have to say tonight. I hope I covered how we became a club and why we are what we are today. I strongly ask that if you're interested in 6 meters, I'm operating on an HO loop in the attic and a radio down in a small shack below. That's all it takes. I think I'm being ordered, sir, if I ask all of you who would like to join us our monthly breakfast at, well, I missed it before, from 8 to 9 on,
Golden Corral, that gas.
Golden Corral, yeah.
Fourth Saturday of every night, except Christmas. And June's different because of field day.
So that's how we got started. If you're interested, there are the current members of the controllers. And I'll leave the charter thing here, let you look at it. and also the logo. Let you look at that. And I have here a message by Abraham Lincoln that I think you would like to read. You want to have any, one question and later questions and answers about it?
Anybody else have any questions for Floyd before we take, let Gene take over from there?
Yes, sir.
Floyd,
You have to speak up now.
I know. The 6 meter side bayonet, actually, never got around to mention it, is an offshoot of the 6 meter net that started on basically the same frequencies back in the early 60s, back in the AM days. And you had the 6 meter, Central Virginia 6 meter net on AM for many a year.
That's right.
Until they finally dissolved and then picked back up as a side bayonet.
And by the way, I sold my guns at those days a long time ago. Yes, I
But
had.
that was the original start of the whole thing. Was 6 meters was way back in the 60s.
Yeah, I helped form that too.
That is correct. It was way back in the early 60s of the 70s. But it's been and out, been and out. We've had it on for 13 years now, and we're still going.
Floyd, one thing I'd like
You'll have to speak up, please.
Okay, one thing I'd like to say as a person who checks in most of the time, but not on the early bird
And
net.
what is your call?
Katie for CMK.
Oh, yeah.
What it means to be a part of this, because it's like a family. When you turn, and we miss, when we check in the morning and hear Ralph's voice or Gene's voice or whatever, your voice, it's like we've got a group, we've got a connection. No matter, you wake up in the morning and you tune in and you hear somebody you know, and they pass it around and you keep track of each other. It's a community, and it's really something you look forward to in the morning.
I'm glad you said that, because you see this? We started a book of all the pictures of the amateurs that are involved, what they do, when they came on place, but there's a special one here I want to show you. I'll get over here in a minute. We've developed this because, let me do it this way.
Let me see while he's looking for that. We have a total of 100 members currently for the 6 meter group now. We've had over 200 as people drop off, like the Virginia phone group do also. And most of the time, we've had up as high as 45 people check into the net on a day. So it is home.
He is exactly right. I don't know, and I've been an amateur a good while. We have the friendliest bunch of amateurs that is on 6 meters that I've ever seen, operating on 6 meters. They help each other. I moved to Manassas for a quick story, and to put my antenna up, Gene and Ralph and a bunch of them drove that whole distance up there to help me put up an antenna. That's amateur, way amateurs should do each other. But what I want to show you, main part of this book, is that I have asked all amateurs that are members of our net to give me a picture of their station. YSP is there. I'm in here somewhere. Anyway, I can't find it. Anyway, this book put together is a family book for a 6 meter net. Anything else?
Anybody wants to take a look at that?
Yeah, I'll leave it up there.
Pass it around and look at it.
Floyd, another thing that people don't realize is that you've got your regulars on the net.
I'm sorry.
You've got your regular net controls and your regular people that check in, and oddly enough, if somebody doesn't show up and is missing for a little while, their phone is liable to ring to find out what happened to them and why they're not there. The group checks on each other to make sure if you're okay or not.
That is correct, and that's what I like.
It is, so it's truly a family group.
Thank you for listening to me. Appreciate it.
I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but we wanted to point out that we do have a website at 50215.net, because that's our frequency and we are a net, so that's easy to remember. Now, again, our breakfast meeting on the 4th Saturday of every month at the Golden Corral at Gaskins and Broad. We have a private room. Sometimes we fill it, sometimes we're overfilling. We love it when it's running over. We have to open the little gate and expand into the adjacent room. But I got into this net shortly after. My member number is number 14. And one of the members, of the early members, heard me on 6 meters one day and said, "Oh, are you aware of the net?" I didn't know about it. But the very next day I checked in, and I've been checking in every day since then. It's a habit. It gets me out of bed at 7:15 every morning. Otherwise I'd sleep in who knows. But I wanted to invite all of you to at least listen to us, check in if you can. We'd love to get you. And like it was mentioned, and you are quite right about the family atmosphere. We've had practically none of the stuff that you hear on 20 meters and 75 meters. It's antisocial stuff. We don't have that. Everybody knows everybody's name. When you come on with your call sign, if we know your name, we'll
For better
say
or
your
for
call
worse.
sign into that.
Better or for worse, we know who you are.
We get to know each other really well. And I wanted to tell you, I was on the old AM net. I was one of the net control operators and the Mars net before that, an hour before the AM net. And I hated to see that go, and I got involved in other things and had to stop participating. I was always interested in 6 meters. All the new radios coming out with 6 meters on them now make it so practical, and the antenna sizes are so small and convenient to work with, and the ranges. I've had stations from South Carolina check into my net on Monday morning, and he's 20 over. The range of 6 meters is amazing, and when the net's open, all you need is 10 watts and a coat hanger, and it's like 10 meters in that respect. So if you haven't experienced 6 meters, I urge you to try it, if at all possible. I do a little thing with RG8U, where I take a piece of it, take the insulation off, strip it back a quarter wavelength, and then fish the central connector out from the shield, stretch it out, tune it, and that's all you need. I've got 2 guys running that antenna out of their attic and checking in on a regular basis. Anything else I can answer for you, just let me know.
One thing with this is one you'll love. When the 7 of us set up at one of Mickey D's place to have breakfast, we got to the point of, well, we'll just do this one a week, and we might not have this open for another week, and that'll be it. Woody was there, he says, no, 7 times a week.
Well, nobody expected the thing to grow and take off as much as it has. It's grown so, and I think we probably made a mistake when we started having member numbers assigned, because we had to limit the membership to 150, like the Virginia Phone Net did, and rotate out the numbers when people stopped participating. That was the only practical way to handle it. So it's grown into way more than we anticipated.
How many people in the room are members of the net?
Pretty I'm preaching to the choir.
Right. So, I mean, you know, I think some folks here can testify to that. I mean, it was part of the reason that, you know, I really value the fellowship, the friendship. You know, I'm number 22, and whatever that means, right? But I mean, we're all, you know, you check into the net, you know who you're talking to. I really like that connection, right? So I'm not Mr. DX, so it's, for me, it's not the logbook entries, it's not knocking stuff out. And nothing, I'm not disparaging that. I'm just saying my preferences are to be able to catch up, to say hello, to you know, get on Jim operating mobile, driving down the road, you know, the early check-in or whatever, and just say hello to a group of friends, right? That's what I'm really doing. So I'm using amateur radio just to talk with my friends. There's nothing more to it than that. You know, I'd encourage you, if you have not played with 6 meters, I mean, you can be a tech and you can work the net. You do not have to be a general. And almost any modern radio is going to have 6 meters with 100 watts. So, you know, that's pretty powerful. And, you know, with this antenna right here, when I asked the question earlier, it's omnidirectional, so you don't have to have a beam and you don't have to point it at some place. It's not going to be like having a beam, but you're going to be able to make contacts. The other thing that I wanted to bring up with 6 meters was right now is a really good time if you're interested in 6 meters, because starting next month and the month after, there's going to be openings. You're going to hear the talk about sporadic openings, where there's going to be lots of 6 meter activity. It's the couple of months of the year where it really becomes active. So if you're interested in getting on to 6 meters, there's certainly people in the room that can help you do it. It does not take a significant investment in an antenna system. It really doesn't. I've used bicycle, you know, the flexible flag poles that you get from Walmart. Yeah, I just cut the flag off. It costs $2. Now I've got a flexible, you know, rod instead of a fishing rod. And I've just, you know, took 2 pieces of wire, and so 239, and you've got a dipole, just like that. Ralph?
One thing that you would really like to hear, if you're on 6 meters and all of a sudden Hawaii comes in, or Alaska comes in, or Japan comes in, and you're hearing them on 6 meters. Europeans, during this time of the year, will gain really much nets up for that type of, it's a wide open all the way across the pond.
It really can be. So it's an E-band. This is the right kind of time of the year to get into it if you're interested in it. So, any other questions, comments for anybody on this topic? No? All right, well, thank you guys. Appreciate it.